he was like moving around with his like arms in his hands.
On a quiet Sunday night in September 2020, a man rushed to his neighbor's house in Lakewood Ranch, Florida, after hearing frantic pounding on his door. What he found was chilling. 8-year-old Ashley Benefield, barefoot and trembling, claiming she had just shot her husband. Minutes later, 8-year-old Doug Benefield lay dying inside their home, gunshot wounds piercing his chest. The couple was in the middle of a divorce, their marriage unraveling after just 4 turbulent years. Ashley, a former ballerina and conservative political figure, claimed she acted in self-defense. Doug, a military veteran and tech entrepreneur, would never get to tell his side of the story. The case stunned the public not only because of the tragedy, but because of who they were, how fast their relationship had ignited, and how bitterly it had ended. Was this a battered wife defending herself, or a manipulative partner executing a cold plan? This is the story of love, lies, and a marriage that ended with a bullet. You're watching Echoes of the Court. If you're drawn to the intersection of justice, psychology, and high-profile courtroom drama, don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow us for weekly deep dives into cases that shook the legal world. Doug Benefield was no ordinary man. A former Navy officer turned defense consultant, Doug was known for his Southern charm, deeply rooted Christian values, and strong belief in tradition. At 54, widowed with a teenage daughter, he seemed like someone whose life was settling into its next phase until Ashley Lindley came along. They met in 2016 at a political fundraiser in Florida. She was 24, a ballet dancer with model-like beauty, and deeply involved in conservative activism. He was instantly taken by her presence. Just 13 days later, they got married in a whirlwind ceremony. Doug didn't even tell his daughter until after the wedding. Friends and family were stunned, but Doug believed Ashley was his second chance at happiness. But the relationship quickly took on a strange intensity. Together, they launched an ambitious project, the American National Ballet, a conservative, leaning dance company that promised to reform the industry. Doug poured in hundreds of thousands of dollars. Ashley claimed she was sidelined in the project, and the company soon collapsed under debt and dysfunction. Lawsuits followed. So did the stress. By 2020, their relationship had decayed into silence, resentment, and accusations. They had a young daughter together, but instead of bringing them closer, parenthood seemed to drive a deeper wedge between them. Doug filed for divorce. Ashley accused him of being controlling and abusive, though she never filed a formal police report. Then, on the 27th of September, while Doug helped her pack for a move to Maryland, something snapped. Within hours, he would be dead, and Ashley would be claiming self-defense. The 27th of September, 2020, a Sunday like any other until it wasn't. Ashley and Doug were at the Lakewood Ranch home, packing her belongings. The divorce wasn't finalized, but Doug had agreed to help her transition to Maryland, where she said she'd be staying with her mother. According to neighbors, the day had been quiet. No shouting, no loud arguments, just the sound of boxes being moved and a relationship being dismantled piece by piece. Then, just after 6 p.m., Ashley left the house barefoot and ran to a neighbor's door, banging frantically. When he answered, she reportedly said, "I shot Doug. He attacked me. I had to do it." Inside the house, Doug Benefield lay bleeding from multiple gunshot wounds. Police arrived quickly. Doug was pronounced dead on the scene. Ashley was taken in for questioning but was not arrested that night. She told officers Doug had become violent, and she shot him out of fear for her life. There were no witnesses, no surveillance footage, and the physical evidence at first didn't contradict her story. But something didn't add up. Doug had no documented history of domestic violence, and Ashley had never called police or filed for a restraining order. What's more, Doug had been shot multiple times, not once. There was no weapon found near his body, no signs of a physical altercation, just a man helping his wife move out, who never got to walk back out the door. Despite the questions, Ashley was released, but the silence from law enforcement didn't mean the case was closed. Behind the scenes, detectives were digging deeper. In the days and weeks after Doug Benefield's death, Manatee County investigators began meticulously combing through the scene. Interviews, and digital footprints. At first glance, Ashley Benefield's claim of self-defense had plausible elements, but the deeper they dug, the more troubling the inconsistencies became. Doug had been shot twice, one round entering through his chest, another through the back. Forensic analysis revealed something even more damning. No signs of a struggle, no defensive wounds on Ashley, and crucially, no weapon on or near Doug. The narrative of him lunging in a violent rage became harder to believe. Investigators also examined Ashley's past. She had made multiple allegations of abuse against Doug, but they were entirely undocumented. In fact, according to Doug's close associates and family, he had confided that he felt increasingly fearful of Ashley, not the other way around. He'd allegedly told a friend that she was becoming erratic and manipulative, and that he was afraid she might try to destroy him either in court or worse. One source of concern came from custody filings. Ashley had launched repeated legal actions, alleging Doug was unfit to care for their child. Yet none of her claims held up in court. It appeared to investigators that Doug was the one seeking a peaceful resolution, while Ashley escalated each confrontation. In November 2020, 6 weeks after the shooting, Ashley Benefield was arrested and charged with second-degree murder. The indictment stated that she had acted with a depraved mind, regardless of human life, and that her account of self-defense was inconsistent with the physical evidence. Her arrest shocked her social circle, especially in the conservative political and artistic communities where she had once thrived. But the state attorney made it clear, this was no longer a tragedy between two troubled spouses. It was now a homicide case headed to trial. The trial of Ashley Benefield was set to be one of the most watched in Florida's recent memory, not just because of the violent outcome, but because of the identities involved. A glamorous ballerina turned political activist, a former Navy officer turned conservative businessman, a romance born in the spotlight, now dissected under oath. Ashley's defense team leaned heavily on self-defense, portraying her as a woman who had lived in fear for years. They claimed Doug was a controlling, verbally abusive partner who manipulated her emotionally and financially. Her attorneys painted a picture of a young mother isolated in a toxic marriage, one where she feared that leaving might cost her custody of their daughter or even her life. But the prosecution had one thing on their side: forensic evidence, the path of the bullets, the lack of bruising or wounds on Ashley, the absence of a weapon near Doug. Prosecutors argued that Ashley had ample opportunity to leave the scene, to call for help, or to seek protection through legal means. Instead, they claimed, she chose a permanent solution to a temporary problem. They also introduced text messages and court documents showing a long pattern of Ashley making accusations without corroboration, particularly in the custody battle. In the eyes of the state, this wasn't a woman trapped, it was a woman plotting. Ashley never took the stand in her own defense. Her team claimed the trauma was too severe. The jury was left to weigh a series of photographs, medical examiner testimony, and character witnesses. Some of Doug's friends testified to his calm demeanor and commitment to his daughter. Others in Ashley's circle insisted she had always been anxious, fearful, and emotionally volatile during the marriage. In the end, it became a war of perception. Was Ashley a victim or a master manipulator? The jury deliberated for several hours, but before a verdict could be reached, another twist came. Ashley accepted a plea deal not for second-degree murder, but for manslaughter with a firearm. Her legal team claimed it was a compromise to protect her daughter from enduring the trauma of a prolonged trial. She was sentenced to 20 years in prison. The courtroom was silent. No cheers, no outrage. Just the echo of what could have been. The public response to the Ashley Benefield case was anything but unanimous. On one side, some saw her as a woman failed by the justice system, a survivor whose claims of abuse were never taken seriously until it was too late. On the other, critics viewed her as a textbook case of coercive manipulation, using unproven allegations as leverage in both her marriage and legal defense. Psychologists and legal analysts weighed in heavily on the case, especially around two recurring themes: narrative control and projection. According to one forensic psychologist, Ashley exhibited signs consistent with high-conflict personality traits, individuals who often perceive themselves as victims regardless of objective circumstances and who escalate disputes through legal or emotional warfare rather than resolution. What disturbed many was the lack of prior evidence supporting her claims. Despite accusing Doug of abuse multiple times, she had never contacted police, filed for a restraining order, or provided witnesses or medical records. Meanwhile, Doug's communications with friends showed growing fear of Ashley's volatility. He reportedly believed she might fabricate abuse or harm him to gain full custody of their child. The ballet world, where Ashley had once tried to build a legacy, largely stayed silent. But within conservative political circles, where she had once found support, reactions were more divided. Some former allies distanced themselves completely. Others doubled down on the battered woman narrative, questioning whether the system punished women too harshly for defending themselves. For Doug's family, the sentence offered closure but not healing. His daughter, now left without a father, avoided the media entirely. The man who had once believed he could build a new family, a new future, had instead become a name in a casebook of Florida's most shocking domestic homicides. Ashley Benefield now serves her sentence at a Florida state prison. No parole, no public appearances, no final bows. Yet the case continues to raise difficult questions. Can claims of abuse stand without documentation? When does fear become justification? And in the echo chamber of conflicting narratives, who gets to define the truth? Ashley Benefield's conviction closed a legal chapter, but the deeper story remains unresolved. In the aftermath, the case has become a reference point in debates over intimate partner violence, manipulation of the legal system, and the weaponization of victimhood. For legal scholars, it's a cautionary tale of what happens when allegations and actions outpace evidence. For the public, it's a story still haunted by the image of a barefoot ballerina, trembling on her neighbor's porch, moments after pulling the trigger. Doug Benefield's legacy, meanwhile, is complex. To some, he was a man who fell too fast for love, who underestimated the emotional and legal dangers of a volatile partner. To others, he was a father trying to do right, supporting his wife even as she moved out, helping her pack for a new life. She ultimately never intended to live with him in it. His ambitions for a ballet company died with him, along with his hopes for a peaceful post-military life. The couple's daughter, now in the custody of extended family, is the silent echo of the tragedy. She will grow up without a father, and with a mother behind bars, a living reminder of a relationship that spiraled into fatal consequences. The home where it all happened was sold. The American National Ballet Company dissolved. Ashley's once curated online presence disappeared. All that remains are court records, autopsy reports, and a haunting question: could it have been prevented? Legal experts continued to dissect the plea deal, wondering whether the system favored expediency over full accountability. Would a full trial have offered more answers? Or would it have only deepened the trauma for a child already caught in the crossfire? In the end, the Benefield case doesn't offer a satisfying resolution. It offers a mirror, reflecting how quickly trust can unravel, how justice can be distorted by perception, and how behind the performance of love and stability, danger often rehearses in silence. This has been Echoes of the Court. If this case moved you, challenged your thinking, or left you with questions, let us know in the comment. And subscribe to follow more cases where law, psychology, and tragedy intersect.